I also asked Jake, like, what are the odds that I get recognized and kicked out? And he was like, oh, 0%. Because even if somebody had watched my videos, then it's like mutually assured destruction, because then, you know, they would have to run to the elders and say, hey, there's a guy who makes anti-JW videos here in today's service. And their immediate question to him would be, why were you watching anti-JW videos? And then he would get in trouble.
Yeah, see, that's the fun fact about the comments I've gotten on my own videos here, is that there's always like a few apparent still JWs that are supposedly, they at least claim they're physically and mentally in, that watch these videos. And the irony is that they are being massive fucking hypocrites, because they quite literally are defying their own mandates of their own religion, their own doctrine, which is you never, ever listen to, watch, participate in, or associate with in any way, under any circumstances, ever, apostate or apostates or apostate media, whatever else. Which basically, if you're not promoting the Jehovah's Witnesses, exclusively positively talking about them and promoting about them and gushing about them and being a Jehovah's Witness yourself, you're an apostate, according to the governing body and most stricter elders. Fun times. So apparently I'm a horrific evil apostate myself. I'm poisoning so many people. I'm the toy of Satan himself, and I'm proud of it, actually. The latter part specifically makes me feel, because I'm an asshole, makes me feel very nice. It makes me feel very good and proud of myself, because it pisses certain people off. But at the same time, that is getting sidetracked. The point is that they are literally committing, by the definition and by the way that they talk about it in Jehovah's Witnesses, apostasy themselves at that point. And that is a very bad thing. So it's always interesting to me to see people who say they're PIMI, they're physically and mentally in, or that they're just simply angry. And they're angry in the comments. To my credit, I guess, to my own benefit, I guess, or I don't know how the hell to word that correctly in a way that makes sense. That doesn't sound terribly egotistical, because I just, my brain's not going to function at that level today. Not that it ever does. Different point. The point I'm trying to make is that I don't get those comments very frequently. It's actually pretty dang rare, although it's becoming more common now. But it's just always a little amusing to me that I get those comments, and it's like, so in other words, you yourself are technically committing apostasy. Like, what? The only thing I think of is they're rage watching to give themselves maybe more confirmation bias that the Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine is correct and their interpretation of the Bible is correct, and that Armageddon is upon us, because look at all these apostates, and they're sprouting up everywhere on the internet, and they're talking mad shit about us. Oh, it's clearly we're being persecuted. We're all gonna die. Bring up Nazi Germany again for the good of the record, and same with Russia, because of course we're being persecuted and being about to be killed by everybody. Just to fucking come on, people. I swear to God. Everything is proof somehow that Armageddon's upon us. Everything is proof that we're all out to get them. We're the boogeyman and the shadow people, and we have a shiv or something, and I guess we're gonna stab it in them. And the shiv is just literally apostate carved out of lead. I don't know. I don't know what the heck is with the people who do that, but anyway.
Make my pit stop into the bathroom and take a leak and hear the like organ music or like the
Okay, I know I keep interrupting, I should not be interrupting as much as possible. The music. Constantly I'm hearing people mention, like, no, they totally changed the music. The music is so much more tone deaf. Like, it's so much less actual music, and now it's just like AI generated slop. It just sounds like it has, like, it's atonal, or it has no life to it. It's like this, everything I've heard so far in this video, granted it's a little bit, is stuff I have permanently burned in my brain. It's all the same. I've already heard these a billion times. I have flashbacks, visual, because I have video and photographic memory. I'm having literally video flashbacks. The songbook has the fucking like people all singing like a choir or something like in it. I think it's in the backside of it specifically, is where all the weird anomalies are. Like one of the guys' mouths is not correct. Like you'll actually notice it's like it folds up into itself, and then all of a sudden his teeth come back down on this side, and there's like this little gap that curls up like this, and it makes it look like he just has a football for a palate in the top of his mouth. There's multiple people that were like one person's abdomen is for some reason transfixed over the other one, so it kind of goes in like this, and then all of a sudden the other person's like this, like they're behind somebody else but they aren't, and so there's just like this weird mix of fucking abdomens, and there's all sorts of weird stuff. It's like AI before AI. It's really bizarre. And of course, the hilarious thing that I always pointed out as a kid is like, the irony is every last one of them have the biggest, bushiest beards. Which, remember, up until, what was it, the beginning of, I think it was March of 2024, it was still mandated, the Rutherford mandate, we should call it, because that's what it is, demanded that beards and facial hair was not acceptable, and it was banned, because supposedly claimed biblical, and obviously it was never biblical. Anyway, the second point I wanted to make, the bathrooms. It doesn't matter what Kingdom Hall it is. All the bathrooms smell identical. Actually, all Kingdom Halls smell identical. I've never been in a Kingdom Hall, no matter its age, that has not smelled exactly the same as every other Kingdom Hall. But for some reason, the scent is the strongest in the bathrooms. And I don't know why it is. It just is. And it is a scent I have never once in my 31 years of life experienced ever, literally anywhere else. It is exclusively a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall / bathroom smell. And I don't know why. I've never, ever encountered anywhere, anything ever that has that smell. Not even really that can come quite close either, actually, admittedly. It's just the smell of Jehovah's Witnesses, apparently. It's the Kingdom Hall smell. It's exclusive to Kingdom Halls. And I'll never understand it. Like I said, it's always strongest, specifically though, in the bathrooms. And your clothing will always end up, after the hour, 2 hours you spend in there, your clothing always ends up smelling like the Kingdom Hall / the bathrooms in the Kingdom Hall. I do not, like, you don't escape it. It's burned into your memory because it's so distinctive. You'll never understand that. It's super bizarre. So yeah, bundle that with the fucking shitty ass music they're always playing, and it's a really almost Severance level kind of memory you have in your head if you've ever seen Severance. It's a really good show, by the way. But yeah, it kind of actually has the vibe of Severance to me. But like it kind of in that sci-fi trope kind of way, where you're in a very sterile, weird, blank, almost corporate environment, and like everyone's kind of a drone. And then when, like, especially if the hall empties out and you're still there late, it's just that much more like Severance. It's that much more weirder, where it's just mostly empty. Like, sure, there's a few living beings nearby, but it doesn't feel like it, and they might as well not exist, because I don't know. It's just a unique, one of a kind thing. It's very, I guess you could argue it's slightly dystopic in a way.
And I'm sitting next to my new friend, this new, young, ambitious 6th grader, and he keeps, nudging me on the shoulder, and he's like, yeah, like, look at this verse, isn't it awesome? And I'm looking out on all these other people, and, they are so polite, and they're kind, and they're sitting down, and they're paying perfect attention to the speaker. They're not scrolling on their phones. They're not distracted. They're not, counting sheep in their head. They are listening and attentive.
Totally are, yeah.
And I know that outside the Kingdom Hall, they are barred from the vast majority of entertainment. They don't really watch movies. They don't listen to secular music, video games.
That's not true. The last part is definitely not true. You can listen to pretty much anything you want, just about. At least, even in my experience. And again, this is with Dad, who was like, had the weirdest warped conception of what the doctrine was, or whatever else, as bad as the doctrine itself was, and it made it infinitely more fundamentalist and worse. Okay, and even then you could still, and we did, listen to plenty of secular music. And you could technically listen to music that was actually singing about, God or whatever else in somebody's faith, and it wasn't even necessarily frowned upon. So like, I don't think that's really true to believe or to say that supposed you can't listen to secular music, quote unquote, which is kind of vague in itself, whatever the heck that means. I'm assuming things that aren't like, I don't know, that don't agree with the doctrine, but then like technically that would be all music, because what? You can only listen to the kingdom songs, and that is literally all you're allowed to listen to as a Jehovah's Witness, or else you're an apostate. Like, no, you can. I mean, yes, we could go back to the 1980s, and all of a sudden we could pretend that, everybody and their dead grandmother, especially if it was rock music, was making, backward satanic messages in their music because people were fucking dumbasses, and they were actually, ironically, intentionally trying to find the supposed Satanism and their fucking, these tracks by literally spending money to then destroy the records, the tapes, or the fucking later on the CDs, because they played them backwards when you're not supposed to do that, because it literally destroys the fucking thing. In fact, I think it causes damage to record players. I'm pretty sure, like, which is itself just shows how fucking stupid people tend to be. Like, they're like, you're literally hunting for something so desperately that you're not supposed to be hunting for, by the way, because you couldn't find it in the actual lyrics. Well, it's got to be there, so let's go and waste our money by buying a fucking record and then destroying it by trying to play it backwards, because that's apparently how that's supposed to work. Like, if we went back to the 80s, yes, there was Satanic Panic was very much included in Jehovah's Witnesses pretty universally. Like, my mom was paranoid and made my dad get rid of like 90%, if not almost, like, literally basically almost every bit. And he had a big music collection, and especially rock from the 70s and 80s. And she made him get rid of it all because she was paranoid like a bat out of hell, because of how bad the doctrine and the mentality of Jehovah's Witnesses is, and how well it fits the whole idea of Satanic Panic. It just goes together like fucking peanut butter and honey and chocolate milk. Like, it I tell you, it's even more ironic is that my favorite band is Styx. My dad's favorite band is Styx. You had to get rid of all of the Styx records and albums because my mom was paranoid. And I don't even know if she was, because that paranoia from the Satanic Panic of the 80s, if that even entered her mind that the name was Styx, which is after the fictional fairy tale river supposedly that exists, supposedly is mentioned in the Bible. I don't believe it ever was. Supposedly in this hell that likely doesn't exist. Like, it's fucking insane to me. So yes, if we went back then and we were in the 80s, yeah, actually, you probably would get as close as to saying you cannot listen to secular music or any other music like that. But you can even listen to country music, and they're talking about God and the Lord and, going to church and everything else all the time. You're totally fine as a Jehovah's Witness to listen to that. It's not like you're supposed to avoid it or like tell somebody to turn it off if you can't get away from it, or like, whatever else, or put your plugs in or something. Like, you're fine. So, yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's not a unique circumstance there. So, that's an interesting concept that he has in his head, that you can't do that, but like I said, it's vague, so I'm not entirely sure like exactly what he was thinking when he said that, but that's definitely not true. You could listen to just about anything universally. You could hear them listening to rap and stuff like that, even with all the horrible shit that like rap, especially modern rap, for some reason tends to obsess over and constantly say that it's basically inner city black people's version of fucking country. I swear to God, it's just the same shit over and over and over again. Same topics over and over and over, the same kind of lyrics, the same kind of message, the same kind of, it's like, guys, fucking get creative for once. God damn. Different story. The point being, ultimately, is that A, that's not true, and B, It also depends on the congregation. It depends on the elders that you have, the CO that you actually have. It depends on a lot. And it also depends on if you end up being friends enough with elders, you will near universally find out that elders defy the doctrine all the time, especially when it comes down to what they are allowed to consume for entertainment. Like, the amount of R-rated and even X-rated movies, genuinely, that elders will let even their kids watch while having other JWs over and hanging out, you know, whatever. The music they listen to, which is raunchy as hell sometimes. All, like, everything you can just about think of. Getting drunker than hell, like, it's... even vices, like cigarettes and stuff. Literally, it's the most normal thing to be a massive fucking contradictory hypocrite, an arrogant asshole if you're an elder with families. I don't know why. It just tends to be damn near universal. You hear about it all the time, especially early 2000s and back. Like, something about the 80s through early 2000s, the elders and their families were just like so opposite of what they were supposed to represent. So proving that it's all bullshit. It's a facade. It's a facade. It's for show. Which is, I don't even know if he realizes he's kind of hitting the nail on the head, and he's indirectly kind of expressing that that's exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses do in everything, including with the memorial, is it is all for show. It is a show. That is it. It is just there as a facade, as a show, like a TV show type of show, right? Or a show you go to pay tickets for. That's why they also treat it like that, and they send out all these invitations and shit to it. And they have the directing of traffic and everything, because it's their biggest show, their most important show, especially to the worldly people that they're trying to get their hooks into. That's ultimately, at the end of the day, what it's all about. So again, with those points out of the way, what he's saying here is not necessarily true at all. Like, so I think, honestly, I think a part of that is because they would do it if they could get away with it. If they could actually pull that off, the governing body, they would absolutely have those mandates, but they can't. And they know they can't, no matter how well controlled and well manipulated people are that are very proudly Jehovah's Witnesses. They know they're never going to be able to prevent it, because the world happens to exist. They have to at least somewhat coexist and somewhat socialize with everyone else of the world. You know, the world and the worldly people. They have to interact with it. They have to kind of live in it and interact with it and use it to an extent. You can never fully get away from it or avoid it. And especially things like entertainment and media. You know, ads, music, other audio tracks, podcasts, shows, books. It doesn't matter. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you cannot fully avoid it. In fact, you're always going to be surrounded by and inundated by it.
And then the little man next to me, he ran back to the back of the Kingdom Hall and grabbed me one of these and gave it to me.
JW Bible.
He was so funny, man. He just kept, every part of the service, he would lean over and he's like, hey, I've got the verse right here. And then after the service, he was like, let me tell you about this one more feature in the JW app. You know that it has multiple translations, right? Oh, and you can, read the Awake magazine and you can read the Watchtower magazine. Wow, it's incredible. I just love parsing through it and cross-referencing verses. And that kid was in the 6th grade. And then as I was leaving, another one of the kids who I, shook his hand on the way in, he pulls me aside and he extends his hand for a handshake. And then he says, 24. And I'm like, and he's like, 24. He brought up 24 scripture references in today's talk. Isn't that incredible? We love the Bible. And again, this kid was like 14.
In a way, I'm kind of opposite of Jared here, because you could tell how impassionately angry and upset and appalled or confused or whatever he was about the non-communion thing, whereas he seems to almost get kind of a little bittersweet kind of happiness, little sadness, little happiness. out of how like joy filled and elated and excited this 12, 13 year old. He keeps saying 14. If you're in 6th grade, you're gonna be 12 or 13. Whereas that's where my disgust and where I feel appalled and where my a little bit of offense and hurt and upset and everything else comes from, my disdain comes in, is with kids that are that enthusiastic about religion. It's the same with like if they're that enthusiastic about like politics, sociopolitics or something. It disgusts me and to my core, and it appalls me to my core, and it makes me feel a little agitated, if not angry, because they are kids. They should have no concept of religion. They should have no concept of sociopolitics. Period. Even if they are entering middle school, they still should have no fucking conception of that. Wait until they're like 15, 16. They will naturally start picking it up on their own, besides the fact that the educational system starts pushing it on them by that point too. Except now, even elementary schoolers are getting fucking sociopolitical bullshit pushed on them, and then people that are super devout Christians want to fucking push the opposite direction and say, that's bad, leave the kids alone, unless it's our religious doctrines. Then we need to put our religious values and Christian values in our schools. That's what we need to replace the DEI with, which I talked about in this video here. And I fucking hate it so much. It's so offensive, it's so disgusting, it's so indefensibly, unethically, immorally wrong to try to convince your kid or talk to your kid about politics or religion when they're a kid. Leave them the fuck alone. It's the stupidest thing. They should never have a full concept of either, and they certainly should not have any kind of exuberance, enthusiasm, pride, or happiness about either. Ever. When they are a child. Because that means you have not left them alone and you have worked your ass off to indoctrinate that kid under your own idyllic, correct, good person, good child image as a parent. Which, yes, means you absolutely fucking butchered your job as a parent. Period. End of story. And you probably should never have been a parent, because that is just offensively immoral and wrong. Leave them the fuck alone. Let them discover themselves on their own. Let them come to you about questions and ideas they might have on their own. Stop trying to instill your values in your kids. Leave them the fuck alone. It is so fucking irritating. When I hear and see that, and kids that are like, oh, so like they literally, their eyes light up about religion, and like they're all about the Bible this and the Bible that and this scripture and that scripture. Well, Jesus said this, Jesus said, you're a child. You're talking like you're a 40-plus-year-old fucking pastor at a fucking Methodist podium of a church. Knock it off. Like, it's disgusting. It's dangerous. It genuinely is dangerous. It's a very bad, toxic thing. It's got to stop. So if I experienced that, I would have to fucking just leave, because I'm a very expressive person, if you haven't noticed, especially emotively. And more so when I'm passionate about something like this. And I do not want to fucking be an anvil smashing over the head of this kid, telling him, your parents fucked up. This is so fucking sad and terrible. The damage you've been caused by being so enthusiastic and exuberant about your religion. That is, in the Bible, that is a major fucking problem, because you're a child. That is disgustingly indefensible that this has happened, and that your parents allowed it and probably cultivated this to happen. It's terrifying. Like I said earlier, right? Because the reason why I didn't even really get their hooks into me, and I didn't, I was able to leave, and I didn't buy into this shit, the doctrine at all, is because I knew better as a kid. Because I observed, I paid attention. I could tell, even vibrationally, energetically, this is all off, and this is really wrong and bad. And I want nothing to do with this. But at the same time, I was bored, because I just didn't give a shit. Because like he's basically kind of saying, indirectly, and people say all the time, right? It's so fucking flatline. There's like no real emotion in it. And then, as we all know, right? When there is emotion, and they do convey emotion in their talks or whatever else, A, it's all for show, but B, it's to talk to you like you're a child. which itself is really fucked up and says a lot about the people that are very proudly, devoutly Jehovah's Witnesses. Not just that they're wildly gullible and some of the worst, most wildly easily manipulable people and gullible minds out there on this earth, but on top of it, that they are literally like psychologically the age of 4. Which is why we have the Stephen Letts of the world, and why the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses that are devout love Stephen Lett, but especially at his peak, before he's gotten to this older age, and I think he's had some health issues, so now he's way more subdued than he used to be. But before, as we all know, he literally animated a face, and he talked like this, and you don't want to hurt Jehovah, do you? No, we want to come together and serve Jehovah. Like, you're not talking to a puppy. You're not talking to a dog. You're not talking to a fucking toddler. These are adults. What the fuck? And so, again, it's like, point made, right? It ties into what I just said before. And I think that's maybe the worst part that you can tie back into even further back just a little bit. Back to the whole kid that Jared's talking about here. Jamal, he said earlier, which I don't think was his actual name. And think about it. This is the reason why the age-old phrase, gotta start him early, exists. Because it's genuinely a real tactic and thing that people think is logical that they actually want to do. That's why the educational system is doing the same thing as Jehovah's Witnesses with their kids, but in this case, or religions with their kids, really. The educational system, so politically, technically, and DEI. That's why. They're trying to get your kid to think that they're trans. Now, it's all fucking fucked up and bullshit. Everybody's trying to fucking indoctrinate everyone else. Everyone's trying to fucking indoctrinate and control the fucking minds of kids now, too. The kids are not being left alone. Sure, you might be a religious person and say, well, that DEI stuff is real bad and it goes against the Bible and everything else. And yeah, it probably does. Again, I'm a proud atheist myself. And I strongly disagree with DEI for so many fucking reasons. And a lot of them I would happily agree with. A lot of the more conservative and potentially religious people out there, because they aren't wrong. It's just basic common sense and logic. But at the same time, no, you should not be as fucked up as you are and twisted with it and be like, that's why we need Christian values in our schools. We need to install prayer and we need to make it mandatory so that they're studying the Bible for at least 15 minutes to an hour a day in school. Wrong answer. You also get to go into the trash bin of death because you are also a terrible human being. That's not an insult. That's an observable fact. The point being, it doesn't matter if it's in the educational system with DEI, which is always toxic, wrong, and bad, or again, the fucking religious aspects instead, replacing it with religion, is just as damaging, just as bad, and just as indefensible, unethical, immoral, and wrong. And it should never be a thing. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go with some helium, and you're going to further inflate my soapbox. You'll excuse me.